also known as spoonbill or spoonbill catfish, Polydon spatula, are among several names given to this unique prehistoric fish. Dating back to 50 million years before the dinosaurs, this primitive riverine fish is believed to be one of the oldest big animals surviving in North America. In fact, the paddlefish is exceptional in that it has not changed much in 300 to 400 million years. It inhabited the warm continental waters of North America at the same time as the trees that now form cold deposits. The paddlefish has many unique features. The head has a large mouth and a rostrum that is 1/3 the length of the body, a heliocercal tail, and a predominantly cartilaginous skeleton. The most obvious characteristic of the paddlefish is its paddle, or rostrum. The rostrum is covered with sensory organs and is believed to serve as a type of antenna which enables the fish to detect and respond to water currents, obstacles, and food. Underneath the paddle is a large mouth which allows the fish to engulf large volumes of water containing minute animals known as zooplankton. The water is filtered through a sieve-like arrangement of gill rakers that retain small food organisms. Historically, paddlefish were abundant throughout the Mississippi River Basin, adjacent Gulf drainages, and the Great Lakes. The former range of paddlefish encompassed 26 states in the United States. Today, paddlefish have become extinct in Maryland, New York, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, which are on the periphery of their range. Paddlefish are currently present in only 22 states. In less than 100 years, man has drastically depleted wild paddlefish populations. Habitat destruction and river modification are the most obvious changes affecting the abundance and distribution of paddlefish. Dams have eliminated traditional spawning sites, interrupted natural spawning migrations, altered water flow regimes, dewatered streams, and eliminated backwater areas that were important as nurseries and feeding areas. Additional stress on the population has resulted from industrial pollution. Poaching and overexploitation by commercial and sport fishing have also adversely affected paddlefish populations.
In 1989, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was petitioned to list the paddlefish as a threatened species. After collecting additional information from the 22 states where the paddlefish occurs, we determined that listing is not warranted. However, because of uncertainties regarding the species status in certain parts of its range, we recommended that additional studies and biological research be conducted on the paddlefish throughout its entire range.
As of 1994, 10 states were stocking cultured paddlefish fingerlings to supplement existing natural populations. This is being done in areas where natural spawning locations and habitat are insufficient or lacking. Also, several private fish farms are propagating and culturing paddlefish as a marketable food fish, valued for its boneless, firm, white meat, and its role as caviar. Mature female and male paddlefish are generally obtained from the wild. For recovery efforts, it's best to use broodstock within its recovery area to retain the integrity of the natural gene pool. With some practice, you can easily distinguish between male and female paddlefish. Typically, males are smaller, being about 1/3 to 1/2 the weight of the female. In appearance, the male fish has tubercles on its head and opercular flaps that provide a fine sandpaper texture upon touch. Also, by using the palm of your hand, the abdominal area of the male sinks inward as you rub across it. In contrast, mature females are 2 to 3 times larger than the males. There are few to no tubercles present on the head and opercular flaps, providing a smooth texture upon touch. The abdominal area is full or distended, so that when the palm of the hand crosses it, it will not sink inward. Also, the gonopore area may be extended and reddish in color. The gear of choice for capturing broodstock are gill nets. Though other gear such as hook nets, trot line, and electrofishing can be used, these can be more detrimental to the well-being of the fish than gill nets. The The mesh size used depends on the target size of the broodstock in a certain region of its range. Broodstock in the lower reaches of the Mississippi River and its associated drainages have mature females that are under 30 pounds in size and males from 10 to 20 pounds in size. In contrast, in the upper reaches of the Mississippi River, mature females are much larger, often weighing over 100 pounds and males over 50 pounds. A 5 to 6 inch bar mesh should be used to capture broodstock 10 to 50 pounds and 8 to 10 inch bar mesh to capture broodstock over 50 pounds. Typically, each net is 300 feet long and 8 to 20 feet deep. The netting material can be monofilament or multifilament nylon. The filament size should be very fine, around number 400. The net should be tied down to provide slack. Vertical lines that are tied from the float line to the lead line and are 3 to 4 feet shorter than the total depth of the net will provide the slack in the net. Webbing with a heavier filament size lessens the efficiency of capturing broodstock. One should check with their state fisheries agency about the regulations before obtaining paddlefish broodstock from the wild. Nets are usually set before dusk, left overnight, and filled the next morning if the water temperature is below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The nets should be submerged at least 3 to 5 feet below the water surface to prevent motorboat propellers from entangling in the nets and to lessen the chance of fish being stolen. In warmer water, nets should be checked every 2 to 4 hours to ensure good survival and health. Large paddlefish captured in small mesh nets will quickly suffocate because the mesh around the gills will prevent oxygen transfer. When nets are checked for paddlefish broodstock, the fish entangled in the net should be brought onto the boat first and then removed from the net to ensure that the fish will not escape back into the water. The fish are very docile and should be removed very gently without harming them. The fish should be then placed into the transport tank. Salt should be added to the water in the live tank at a rate of about 4 pounds of salt per 100 gallons of water. This improves osmoregulation and increases the production of mucus by the fish. It is common or usual for the fish to float ventral side up and not demonstrate much activity. The temperature of the water should be 60 degrees Fahrenheit or lower for transport. Salt should be added to the water in the hauling tanks at a rate of about 4 pounds per 100 gallons of water. A stretcher is useful for loading the fish into hauling tanks. The fish should be loaded onto the stretcher ventral side up. This fully supports the fish and helps prevent internal injuries. The fish should be loaded tail first into the hauling tank so they can be removed easily by handling the rostrum. Unlike most fish that are transported, paddlefish are usually inactive and remain ventral side up during the confinement. 3 to 400 pounds of paddlefish per 100 gallons of water is adequate for transportation periods of 12 hours or less. Upon arrival, water temperature should be checked. If within 3 degrees Fahrenheit, the fish can be offloaded into the broodstock holding ponds. Otherwise, water from the holding ponds should be pumped into the hauling tanks to slowly temper the fish. After the trip, the fish may need assistance to initiate swimming. A gentle push and pat on the tail will usually do the trick. The hatchery facility should include round tanks with a minimum diameter of 8 feet and fill and drain lines. A good source of water, such as aerated well water, pond water, or dechlorinated tap water with a flow rate of 3 to 4 gallons per minute directed to cool the current. Appropriate water temperature ranging between 59 and 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Cotton cloths or towels for drying the fish. Large bowls for egg collection, either glass or stainless steel. 10 cc syringes with Tygon tubing attached for milk collection. LH-RH analog for inducement of ovulation and spermiation. syringes for injection of the inducing hormone, upwelling hatching jars such as McDonald jars, prickly feathers for storing the eggs, Fuller's earth to prevent clumping of the eggs, stretcher, sawhorses, water hose, scalpel, and sutures for surgical removal of the eggs. Potential spawners are determined by examining their eggs or oocytes microscopically. The female is placed ventral side up in the tank and held in position. To remove eggs from a potential spawner, a scalpel is used to make a 1/4 inch incision in the ventral midline down from the pectoral fin. A rigid plastic 4 mm internal diameter tube is fitted with Tygon tubing and attached to a 10 mm syringe. The rigid section of the tube is inserted through the incision and into the ovarian mass. By applying slight suction with the syringe, 25 to 50 eggs are drawn into the tube. The sample can be stored on ice or refrigerated before being processed. 2 to 3 stainless steel staples or sutures are used to close the incision. Ten to 15 oocytes are placed into a 10 milliliter test tube filled with water, then placed into a 150 milliliter beaker containing boiling water. The oocytes are boiled for 5 to 7 minutes. This hardens the yolk and fixes the position of the nucleus. The oocytes can then be examined to determine if the female broodfish is ready to spawn. The location of the nucleus within the oocyte, called the germinal vesicle position, reveals whether or not it has reached maturity. This is determined by dissecting the oocyte under a dissecting microscope. This procedure is accomplished by grasping the oocyte with a pair of forceps and making a cut along the animal-vegetal axis. This cut can be made with a surgical scalpel or single-edged razor blade. This diagram shows examples of some of the positions the nucleus may be in. Example A is an oocyte that has a nucleus in the center, which indicates it is underdeveloped, and the female would not respond adequately to spawning induction. Example B is an oocyte that has the nucleus slightly off-center. The oocyte would be considered questionable, and spawning induction would be at the discretion of the hatchery manager. Example C is an oocyte that is mature and represents oocytes from a female that is a good candidate for induced spawning. If the brood stock is acceptable for spawning, the fish should be weighed and placed into a net-covered tank until time for injection. Male brood stock readiness for spermiation is determined by the presence of tubercles on the head and a opercular flap. Also, some milk production may be observed. To spawn paddlefish in captivity, brood stock are induced to ovulate or spermiate with exogenous hormone injections. The luteinizing hormone, releasing hormone analog, or LHRHA, is the hormone most reliable for induction. The hormone should be mixed with bacteriostatic 0.9% saline solution in a 1-to-1 ratio. For example, a 5 milligram vial of LHRH analog should be mixed with 5 milliliters of saline solution. Current regulations by the Food and Drug Administration require that hormones to induce ovulation and increase spermiation of fish must be obtained under an investigational new animal drug permit. The female should be given a total dose of 100 micrograms per kilogram of body weight in a 2-series injection. The injection should be given in the body cavity at the base of the pelvic fin with a 1 to 5 milliliter syringe fitted with a 20-gauge needle. The priming dose should be 10% of the total dose. Wait 12 hours and give the resolving dose, or remaining 90% of the total dose. Ovulation will usually occur within 12 to 30 hours after the resolving dose. Male fish should be given a total dose of 50 micrograms per kilogram of body weight administered in a single injection when the female fish receives its priming dose injection. Spermiation occurs 12 to 24 hours after injection. Paddlefish pituitaries have also been effective to induce spawning. 3 to 5 milligrams of acetone dried pituitaries ground with mortar and pestle are mixed with saline. Then, the solution is injected into the body cavity to induce spawning. It should be administered in a series of 2 doses. The priming dose should be 10% of the total dose. After 12 to 24 hours, the resolving dose should be given at 90% of the total dose. At the initiation of ovulation, eggs will often be seen on the bottom of the tank. Eggs can be collected from the female by 2 methods: hand stripping or by a surgical process known as cesarean section. Hand stripping involves a series of steps that begin with catching the fish and holding it until it calms down. The fish is then turned over with ventral side up and picked up by wrapping an arm around its head while supporting its back and using the other hand to hold the caudal fin in an upward position. Quickly dry the fish off by patting the entire fish and gonopore area with cotton cloths. Then invert the animal and apply pressure to the abdomen. Another person is there with a bowl positioned to collect the free-flowing eggs. This procedure has to be repeated every 30 to 60 minutes, receiving about 150 to 200 milliliters of eggs at each stripping. This process can continue for up to 18 hours. The cesarean section involves waiting about 2 to 4 hours after onset of ovulation. The fish is placed onto a stretcher and anesthetized with MS-222 at a rate of 60 to 80 milligrams per liter. This is done in a recirculating system to irrigate the gills for respiration. A 9-centimeter ventral incision is made, and using a scoop, most of the eggs are removed. The total procedure time of 20 to 30 minutes is required to remove the majority of the eggs. The incision is sutured closed. To collect milk, the male fish is caught and held until it is calm. It is rowed laterally so that the ventral area is above the water surface, and the gonopore is dried with a cotton cloth. A 10 milliliter plastic syringe attached with a 5 centimeter length of tied-on tubing is inserted into the urogenital pore to collect the milk. The milk is immediately checked for motility under a microscope. Milk from at least 3 males should be collected to increase the genetic diversity of the offspring. The syringe with collected milk can be stored on ice or in the refrigerator until the eggs are collected. The milk from 3 or more males should be diluted in water before being poured onto the eggs. This wet method of fertilization is to avoid problems, such as inactivation of spermatozoa by female body fluids mixed with the eggs and the potential of polyspermy, which is the penetration of the egg by several spermatozoa. A dilution ratio of 1 to 200 milliliters of milk to water is enough to fertilize about 150 to 200 milliliters or 140 to 200 grams of eggs. The fertilized eggs should be gently stirred in a figure 8 pattern with a turkey feather for about 1 minute. Next, add fuller's earth suspension at a rate of 2/3 cup per gallon of water into the bowl containing the fertilized eggs in a proportion of 2 to 4 volumes of suspension to 1 volume of eggs. The mixture should be gently stirred in a figure 8 pattern for up to 20 minutes at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. After the eggs are coated, the eggs should be washed thoroughly by adding fresh water. After cleansing, pour off the water and excess fuller's earth. The fertilized eggs should be poured into a measuring device to estimate the number of eggs per liter. Generally, there are 50,000 to 60,000 eggs per liter. Then, using your arm to displace the water, The eggs are poured into a McDonald's jar. The water flow is adjusted to about a gallon per minute. After the completion of embryo neurulation, about 3 days after fertilization, the water flow should be increased to about 2 gallons per minute. The optimum water temperature range is 60 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Water temperatures warmer than 68 degrees Fahrenheit can be lethal to developing embryos. Water temperatures below 60 increases the incubation time, which in turn increases the chance of fungus developing on the eggs. Development from fertilized egg to larvae occurs over a 5 to 10 day period, depending on water temperature. Over the first 2 days, blastulation and gastrulation occur. Neurulation begins with the appearance of the neural groove and is completed by the end of the 3rd or 4th day. Over the next several days, the embryo becomes more developed. Shortly thereafter, the larval fish hatch and actively swim. They swim vertically in the water column, then stop to sink down and continue to repeat this behavior until the fish swims up and over the top of the jar into a net enclosure. Larvae will remain in the net enclosure for 6 to 7 days until the yolk is absorbed and they begin to feed on an external food source. Larvae are ready to stock when peristalsis has begun, mouthparts are developed, and fish are swimming in a horizontal path. In 5 to 8 days, they are usually about 3/4 of an inch in total length and now ready to stock. The larvae can be cultured in ponds or in flow-through tanks. 2 weeks before broodstock are induced to spawn, pond preparation should begin. Ponds should be drained completely and, if possible, dried. The open bottom and any standing water should be treated with 400 to 1,000 pounds per acre of calcium hydroxide, also known as hydrated lime or slacked lime. The drying and lime treatment kill many infectious organisms and parasites, as well as predators and competitors, such as fish, tadpoles, and insects. After the fish have been spawned, the pond should be flooded with well water or surface water and filtered through a fine saran cloth sock. Organic fertilizer should be applied over the next 2-week period as the water level increases. Choice of organic fertilizers used in larval rearing ponds should be based on local availability, cost, personal experience, and zooplankton response. Several agro-industrial byproducts have been tested, such as cottonseed meal, distillers' dried grain, and rice bran. Rice bran is proven to be the preferred organic fertilizer of those tested. The following is a table with a list of organic fertilizers that can be used. The fertilizer quantities and application schedule are based on the nitrogen content of the organic fertilizer chosen. The total amount of nitrogen applied to each pond via organic fertilizers is 40 pounds per acre. It is best to apply the initial organic fertilizer amount in increments and not all at one time. Also, liquid inorganic fertilizer, diammonium phosphate 10-34-0, should be added to receive an additional 9 pounds per acre of nitrogen. For best zooplankton response and high fish yields, it is recommended that a low nitrogen to high carbon fertilizer be used. Larval paddlefish less than 5 inches in total length are particulate feeders and consume individual large zooplankton as their first food. Daphnia, in the group of Cladocerians, have been found to be the preferred food item, especially during the first couple of weeks after stocking. Smaller Cladocerian and other crustacean zooplankton, such as copepods, are either too fast or too small for the larvae to capture. Daphnia can be cultured indoors or in ponds. The Daphnia should be netted out, the number of organisms per liter estimated, then poured into the prepared ponds until there is at least 1 Daphnia for every 1/2 gallon of pond water. The Daphnia population expands quickly and densities often increase up to 5 organisms per liter by the time fish are ready to stock. Daphnia populations should be monitored over the entire culture period. Daphnia that have summer eggs demonstrate a healthy population, whereas Daphnia that have epithia, more commonly called the resting stage, demonstrate a population that is deteriorating. Larvae should be stocked at about 25,000 fish per acre. The number of fish can be estimated by weight or by volumetric displacement. The fish can be transported to the pond in oxygenated hauling tanks or in plastic bags inflated with oxygen. The larvae should be stocked after sundown, before sunrise, or on a cloudy day. Larvae development occurs rapidly if preferred food organisms are available. The most obvious change in the larvae is the growth of the rostrum, reaching about half of its total body length at the end of the nursery phase. Over the same period, the pigment of the fish darkens and the gill rakers elongate. On the average, the fish should grow at least 1/8 of an inch per day to reach about 5 inches in total length after 40 days. Promoting live foods for paddlefish by fertilizing the water is essential for optimum fish production, but at the same time, good water quality must be maintained to ensure fish survival. Dissolved oxygen, temperature, and pH should be monitored twice daily. However, dissolved oxygen is probably the single most important factor. Because of the rostrum, paddlefish, unlike many other cultured fish, cannot use the surface film to obtain oxygen. Therefore, they cannot tolerate low oxygen. Dissolved oxygen should be monitored twice daily to predict the level of oxygen during the nighttime. The oxygen level should be maintained at 40% or 4 parts per million of total dissolved oxygen saturation or above for a given water temperature. Emergency aeration should be used if levels of dissolved oxygen become too low. Paddlefish grow best when water temperatures are 18 to 22 degrees centigrade. Though water temperature cannot be altered in the pond environment, keeping records throughout this cultural period will assist in understanding the growth rate of the fish. pH should be between 7.0 to 9.0. Monitoring is important in case there is a sharp rise in pH, particularly in the afternoon as water temperatures are increasing. Water samples should be taken from ponds twice a week to test for increased levels of unionized ammonia and nitrite. Levels of unionized ammonia above 1.0 parts per million and nitrite levels above 0.15 parts per million have been known to be lethal to young paddlefish. By monitoring these parameters, fertilization rates can be adjusted to keep them within safe range. If nitrite increases, salt, sodium chloride, should be added to the water to prevent possible nitrite-induced anemia, also known as brown blood disease. If unionized ammonia continues to increase, flushing the pond with fresh water might be your only choice. Once the fish reach 3 inches in total length, the 1/16-inch floating catfish fingerling pellet can be offered to the fish. Unfortunately, there is not a specific prepared diet formulated for paddlefish, but catfish diets appear to be acceptable. Although it has been the experience of some paddlefish culturists that the food that only be eaten live foods were not available. Feed should still be offered to the fish several times a day. The fish should be fed as much as they will eat in 20 minutes. It is not recommended that a sinking feed, such as crumbles, be fed to paddlefish in ponds because the feed does not stay in the water column and is not available to the fish. Also, it can accumulate on the bottom of the pond, and its decomposition can deteriorate water quality. As the fish grow larger, pellet size can be increased as long as the fish can ingest it. Fish can remain in monoculture throughout the summer if the fish are trained on food. Filter feeding paddlefish at 5 inches in total length or larger can also be harvested and stocked into a polyculture situation with other fish species known to be compatible. As long as the paddlefish are larger in size than the other fish species, paddlefish will generally thrive. Channel catfish fingerling and paddlefish polyculture has been found to be an acceptable combination. Approximately 445 to 450 pounds per acre of paddlefish can be raised in polyculture with catfish fingerlings. Survival rates are generally high, ranging from 90 to 100%. Harvesting paddlefish from ponds is generally very simple. Using a seine with a bag and a mud line is recommended for most efficient capture. Paddlefish should be harvested when air and water temperatures are the coolest, such as early in the morning. The captured fish should be spread out in the net as much as possible to avoid crowding them. The fish should be loaded into a hauling tank equipped with agitators and oxygen. Approximately 2 pounds of fish, averaging 1 foot in total length, can be hauled per gallon of water. If paddlefish are in a polyculture with catfish fingerlings, a seine with a 1 inch or larger mesh size should be used to capture the paddlefish and permit the catfish fingerlings to swim through. After the first summer of growth, paddlefish juveniles, at least 1 foot or more in total length, can be stocked into rivers and into reservoirs for restoration programs, as a sport fish and as a food fish. An alternative to pond production is the raceway system. Expected survival in the raceway system is about 65%, with an average growth rate of about 1/8 of an inch per day. Production in raceways is 9.9 pounds per cubic foot. Flow rates should maintain 1 exchange every hour to hour and a half. Water temperatures can range from 61 to 82.5 degrees Fahrenheit, with an optimal temperature of 66.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Groundwaters may have to be aerated to ensure ample dissolved oxygen content, and surface water should be tested for contaminants and water quality. If a flow-through system is used, liquid water quality monitoring is required, except for temperature and dissolved oxygen. Outside, raceways should be covered with 95% shade cloth to minimize direct sunlight and ultraviolet light exposure, which can cause sunburn and mortalities. For raceway paddlefish production, larvae are stocked with about 8 fish per gallon of water. Larvae development is monitored, and when they are ready to start feeding, they are fed a trout salmon crumble containing 50% food protein. Small amounts of feed are distributed over the entire raceway frequently to ensure acceptance by the larvae and ample food availability for fast growth. Raceways are also cleaned twice a day to remove mortalities, fish waste, and uneaten feed. Screens are equipped with low-pressure air bubblers to keep fish off the screens and help keep the screens from stopping up. To avoid stress, densities are periodically reduced from the 8 fish per gallon at stocking to about 0.8 fish per gallon in about 8 inches. Visual observations are also important in monitoring stress related to density. Fish swimming at the surface with their paddles above the water, a behavior known as billing, is an indicator of density stress. In addition, frequent tail biting may also indicate overcrowding. Both conditions can be relieved with a reduction of fish per gallon, and affected fish that are removed and placed in another raceway at lesser densities also recover quickly. When handling fish, it is a good practice to use highly oxygenated water, 3 parts per thousand iodine-free salt concentration, to help avoid additional stress from handling. Visual observations and close monitoring of daily mortalities are also used to discover disease problems before they become catastrophic. Flexibacter columnaris can attack the newly developing rostrum of 1.2 to 2.0 inch fingerlings and cause rapid disintegration and mortality. Fish have been treated successfully with medicated feed containing oxytetracycline. Ichthyopterius multifilius, or ick infections, slow growth but cause fewer mortalities. Ick can be successfully treated with daily 1-hour treatments of 150 parts per million of an approved formalin for 3 to 5 days or until condition improves. Salt treatments of 3 parts per thousand appear to be effective and less harsh to the fish. Warmer waters of 86 degrees Fahrenheit will aid in the elimination of ick because the higher water temperature is not optimal for the life cycle. Current regulations and recommended procedures should be followed when applying therapeutic treatments. These methods produce 8-inch paddlefish fingerlings, 20 fish per pound, in 50 to 60 days, which is a growth rate of 0.14 to 0.16 inch per day. Fingerlings are taken off feed 1 day prior to harvest to prevent fouling of the transport water from fish waste. Since fingerlings grow fast and lengths and weights change daily, they are sampled as they are put onto transport units for accurate enumeration. Transport waters need to be highly oxygenated, even supersaturated, because fingerlings cannot efficiently ventilate in the crowded, confined space. Hauling densities decrease as fingerling size increases. At 8 inches up to 8 fish per gallon can be safely transported for 7 hours in water that is highly oxygenated and contains 3 parts per thousand iodine-free salt. A unit of 630 gallons can safely haul 5,000 8-inch fingerlings. The paddlefish is truly unique. Its longevity through history justifies its existence in the future. Further research in reproductive biology, physiology, fish production, and nutritional requirements are all needed to maintain the paddlefish in our ever-changing world.